Hey, this is Tanisha, and this week I'm showing you how I paint this building sketch. And before I get started, let me tell you a little bit about what I'm using here. So I'm using a etcher. I believe it's called the Everyday Sketchbook. It's a 100% cotton sketchbook, so this was my first go at using the sketchbook. And I've already made some mistakes, which I'll explain in a moment. So this is kind of exciting because this is actually my second 100% cotton notebook, but this is my first time using one. Now I have used 100% cotton paper, so I don't want to say I never used that type of paper. Anyways, I wanted to go ahead and just talk you through this sketch. And first, I want to say the reference that I'm using, this will be the last time I use these kind of references because I was using Pinterest. I have no plan on selling this, so that's why I used it. But going forward, I plan on just using other reference sites because it's really hard to find the owner of the reference, and I don't want to steal anybody's references. So I highly suggest you do the same. Try to find other places to find your references. There are so many, and there are actually a large number of reference image groups on Facebook that allow you to use images that you could paint from and you can sell. So I highly suggest you check that out. But I'll go ahead and get into the sketch of this building. So I started off with the cloudy or the sky part, and one of the things I noticed is that paper towel does not work well on this sketchbook, and it had some little weird marks, but I just kept going. I feel like when we're painting, we're always going to learn something new, and I just keep going. I did it twice. There's a little black section in here on the side of the door at the top, like by the awning. And I think I did another paper towel situation there. So I learned the hard way. Paper towel does not work here. So I first like to point out is that I'm starting out with 3 colors only. I made my own brown and black, so any color you see in here is made out of only 3 colors. And I did not use a separate white or a separate black. And I typically start out just putting everything a very light color. The goal here for me is not to copy the image exactly, but I am utilizing similar colors, sort of, in a way. And a lot of times the reason why I pick a reference is because I like the color. It's something about it that I like. The color, maybe just the way it's built. This particular building was kind of rough, actually. It's had a lot of rough marks and just a very imperfect building. So I'm going to be painting kind of erratically, I guess, not perfect or trying to get everything smooth, things like that. I'm allowing myself to have varying tones of the color in here. So you'll see some areas where it'll be lighter color, some will be darker than others, and there's a reason for that because this building is not a perfect building. The paint isn't perfect. It's a lot of different colors mixed into this building, so you'll kind of see that I'm not really being very precious with what I do with the paint. So just like right here, I'm just kind of going over it. Typically you should wait and let it dry, but I'm allowing myself to be a little bit free, and so that I can have some differences in how the paint looks. And at the last minute, this little section you see me working on, I added this last minute. It wasn't part of my original plan, but I really wanted to make more of a full scene. A lot of times in recent times, I didn't do that. And I also like to point out here, I started to lose my pencil marks, so I decided to go ahead and just paint in the bricks because I was noticing that my pencil marks were getting lost when I was adding the paint over it. Now here's another thing. You really don't have to paint every brick. I was just being, I guess, a little extra. But typically people don't do this. I really enjoyed it and I didn't have a problem with it. I love lines and making lines. I don't know that I do this for every building, but it wasn't that bad. It wasn't a lot of work. So I didn't mind. So like I said, you can see I'm adding in some just kind of like various colors here. And I'm just dabbing in different things that I see in the reference image, which was just up. The building had a lot of imperfections, which I was interested in seeing how I could replicate. Not so much exact. I don't think I'm ever really gonna go for an exact replica of the image. Matter of fact, the door here is actually wider than it should have been, so nothing about this building is exact, and I think that's okay. If I was going for a perfect building, I would have used a ruler. I did not use a ruler to draw this. I just drew it with pencil, and then I went over it with my pen. And I'm okay with a little bit of quirkiness. I feel like when we just allow our hands to do the work, it resembles that artist's hand. Nothing wrong with a ruler. I think, it depends on your process. I noticed some people really love to use rulers. They love super straight lines. And I think that's really cool. I think if you know how you work and you love how you work, then that's fine. If ruler is part of your process, that's part of your process. I'm going for a little bit more of a looser style, just more of a natural style. So what you see is what you get. Now, we'll say, as I move forward, when I'm working with buildings that require some kind of horizon line or perspective aspect to it, I'll more than likely just use a ruler to get the different angles in there correctly, because sometimes it's just a lot easier that way. But for the most part, I will say a huge majority of the image will always be just by hand and no rulers or anything like that. But I think when you're using perspective, it can be a bit tricky. And so I have, like this, for instance, the building in the back, which I put in last minute. I could have used perspective, and I probably should have. I mean, when I say perspective, I should have drew the horizon line, put the dots where they need to go, and then did that. But I didn't do it. I just kind of freehand it, and I just said, hey, we're gonna take risk. And that's what I did. I mean, I think you can tell it's a building. So that's behind here. And that's all really that's really what matters. Okay, so back to the picture. As you can see, I am just working on adding in different things with the wall. I'm looking to see what colors I see, and I'm trying to add that in. And I will say that it has taken me some time to get to a point where I'm okay with what I'm doing, because honestly, this is what's called the ugly stage, and I am just thinking, how is this going to come out? My mind is like, this looks crazy. Although I know that the reference image that I'm using, it is a rough building, so I know that, but you do start to question yourself, and that's where you just have to keep moving forward. And I'm starting to learn that the building really starts to come together when I get to the part where I'm doing shadows and adding words. I feel like that's when it really starts to come together. So you just have to keep pushing through. And that's kind of what I'm learning to do. I think it's a battle for everybody, and that's just what I'm learning. Also, if you look at my door, I had a really hard time with the door section. Was not happy with how I drew that. I should have taken more time. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. I get excited, and I just say, oh, I messed it up. Let's just keep going. But again, I'm not going for a perfect image or perfect drawing. So you know, it's okay to have little quirky things, and I find that people really enjoy it. Again, it's not about what other people, you know, that other people enjoy it, but I mean, I think people like to see things that are just very artistic like, and doesn't have to be all perfect. And you know, if that's what the person is looking for, then you know, perhaps my art wouldn't be a right fit for someone who's looking for a perfect piece of art, or you know, really straight building. So yeah, I just suggest if you're getting into sketching like this, just have fun with it. I will say, although my lines are not perfectly straight, I do, and I need to do it more. I've spent some time practicing straight lines and things like that, and I need to continue to do my drills. But a lot of times what will happen, I'll get my building not 100% straight, but somewhat straight, and then as soon as I put the pen down, all my hand just like starts wiggling or something. I don't know what it is, but it just does that. I have no clue why. Anyways, I'm trying to work on this door. I'm trying to leave some type of light, and because of how I drew it, I'm really confused, and I'm thinking, how am I doing this? I'm trying to get my thoughts together about how the strategy will work. In the end, it worked out pretty well. I mean, there are some things I would have done differently. I think one thing that we should remember is that you don't have to make the painting exactly like the reference image. You don't have to do that. That's honestly a choice. And I could have changed this, and I probably should have changed it, but it's too late now. And you know what? We'll just live with it. It's okay. So I'll say this is the point where I'm starting to think about darkening colors. I'm getting closer to where I'm going to put in shadows and things like that. And I feel like this is when it really starts to come together. I'm not really after a realistic looking piece of art, but maybe in between. But I don't see myself wanting to work hours and hours and hours on one piece, at least not right now. Who knows? Things could change in the future. But this, you know, where I ended up with this piece was good enough for me. So right now I am putting some emphasis on the bricks, and there's more I could have done here. I could have done some different things to really make the bricks stand out. I didn't spend a lot of time on it, and the thing is, I could still go back and do the things that I'm thinking of, but I think it's okay. I mean, again, it's not about perfection. I have to keep reminding myself. So one of the things that I'm going to point out when I get there, and here I'm starting to add some shadows, is that building at the top right, I wanted that to stay in the background. And so ideally, when you want things to stay in the background, you don't make them you don't do anything to make them very noticeable. Well, I messed up. One thing with watercolor, once you go dark, you go too dark, you can't go back. You can get out your gouache and try to fix it. I decided to just leave it be as a lesson learned. But I did something with the window that really made it stand out, and now I feel like when people look at the piece of artwork, your eye goes to that building at the top, which is not where I want it to go. I feel like the focal point in this sketch will be the door, because that green color, and yeah, that you'll see that window in the top, that top building might catch your eye somehow, but it's a lesson learned for sure. One thing I like to point out is the tree here on the left side. So it's kind of coming from behind the building, but I realized after I did this, it could look like it doesn't have a bottom part to it, a stump, whatever, tree, stump, whatever you call it. And so I should have probably just drawn one in on the side of the building. but hopefully people will realize it's coming out from the back, peeking out. And there's actually a white fence right under that tree, but you can't see it. So, you know, I should have done something to make that stand out. So there's a lot of things I could have improved. In the end, I still was really happy about how this came out regardless, because I think it's just about having fun and just being free to create. So now I am putting in some shadows and things to really make things stand out a little bit. This is my favorite part. I think it's when things start to really pop more for me. And that's when I just feel like it's coming together. And then shortly after, I will add some words to the windows and to the building. And that's when I feel like it definitely comes together. So there's a lot of noise going on outside my window, so apologize for that. It's hard to know when to record because sometimes it's a little bit noisy. And usually the least noisiest is probably 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm usually not up at that time. So yes, we are getting into the last little bits. And I'm filling in some of the areas that need to be dark, especially under this awning here. It's helped make it pop a little bit. It's dark under there. And start doing some things on this top building, but again, not happy with what I did. The first go with the window was fine. Actually, it would have been better if I had left the window with using that first color. But now I've already started to go too dark. And I think at this point I was kind of thinking going darker. I don't know what I was doing, but I realized I did too much. I think I tried to take it away and it just didn't work. So, oh well, it is what it is. Yeah, I tried a different brush and just couldn't fix it. Oh well, just could not fix it. Another thing too that I want to point out, sometimes I have a habit of forgetting to decide where my light is coming from. So it's kind of important to think about that ahead of time. Don't do it like I do and not think about where your light is coming from. Now, I did try to follow what was in the image as much as I could, but I could have done better. If you don't have good lighting in your reference, which you should look at reference images with good lighting, you can make up your own, and you just have to make sure you make it consistent. And so I know I need to do a better job of just looking into that, into the lighting and paying attention. So in the middle of this, I just had a coughing attack. Of course, in the middle of recording, you just start coughing. One thing too with the painting here is that I find that my hands wobble sometimes, and I always try to remember I'm not trying to be perfect, just let it be free. And sometimes the lines come out wobbly, but again, I think it's just part of the process of sketching. Sketching is imperfection. But here I am adding the words. I feel like this is when it just really comes together. And actually, after I finished making this image, I realized, as you can see, I'm putting in some pencil here. I forgot to erase it. You'll probably see it in the image in the end of this video, where you can sort of see the pencil coming through. because I didn't think to erase it. And I was really freehanding this as well. I was like, we're not going for perfection. I don't know. I kind of like it. I like not going for perfection because I have a tendency in a lot of things that I do to try to do it very well. I'm not perfect, and I know I'm not perfect, and I never want to be perfect. But sometimes you can have like me, I have a tendency to try to do my very best, which is a good thing to have. But sometimes it can be crippling. And that's why with my art, I try to get away from that, because honestly, I have initially, when I started doing this sketching, I did spend like 3 or 4 hours once just getting the building perfect measurements, perfect everything by hand. And that's just, I didn't even get to the painting part. That was just the drawing part, 4 or 5 hours, something like that. And I don't want my art to be that perfect. I want it to have some life. And that's why I really try to just be okay if I mess it up a little bit, because it helps me keep that part of me that wants to do it absolutely perfect out of the way. So I don't know if any of you deal with that. I'd love to hear about it if you do, and what you do to get over it. I think that's why when I was doing abstract painting, I would just put a timer on, because I mean, you can keep going over the painting over and over and over with your abstract painting forever. So you really just have to learn, you know, what point am I done? Is it good enough? And again, now there are people who just love taking their time with their art, spend months on it. I mean, meticulous work. I've seen it on TikTok and Instagram where they draw on every line, and it's a baby line and it takes them months and months and months to finish one piece. I just don't have that kind of, I have the mentality to want something to be nice like that, but I don't even think I have the patience to do that. So I'm curious of what kind of painter you are. Are you one that uses rulers and try to get it perfect? Are you one that likes to leave a little wobbliness, a little bit of life? And I'm not saying a life is gone if you use rulers. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I'm just curious. Well, anyways, this is like the ending of the painting. I really hope you like it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, I'm just curious to hear what you think about it. And I'm actually thinking about starting a series on coffee shops around in the area I live in. Thinking about just going and maybe starting a series on that, but we'll see. I'm not sure. Really hope you enjoy this video. Thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.